And if Yuta Okkotsu, the special grade sorcerer, were in Demon Slayer, would the Queen of Curses Rika be able to devour the upper moons? And most importantly, how would cursed energy interact with the biology of the demons? Look, Yuta is transported right after the events of the night parade of 100 demons at the peak of his power and control over Rika. When facing a special grade curse, it sends him directly to another universe, or rather, to the universe of Demon Slayer. Yuta doesn't appear just anywhere, but on top of a moving train. Being a Jujutsu sorcerer, Yuta can sense an ONI. For the same reasons as curses, hostile intent, distorted aura, and unnatural presence, he wouldn't call it a curse. But his instincts would already be in combat mode. Even before understanding what it is, he feels a dense evil aura that he knows very well. Yuta prepares for battle in Jujutsu Kaisen. Yuta possesses the reverse curse technique, which generates positive energy in the world of Jujutsu. Positive energy is a pure energy that instantly exterminates curses, since attacks with positive energy directly affect the opponent's soul. In Demon Slayer, the demons are vulnerable to sunlight, which is pure energy. Therefore, Yuta's reverse curse technique would work like a constant red Nichirin blade. A touch from his hand charged with positive energy would be lethal to any demon, nullifying cellular regeneration at the molecular level. Upon entering the train, the situation is already chaotic. Enmu is trying with all his might to consume the passengers on the train, but he is stopped by Rengoku, Zenitsu, and Nezuko. Obviously, Yuta would do his part, so when Tanjiro decapitates Enmu, the train derails. As the dust settles, an overwhelming presence appears. Akaza, the Upper Moon 3. And now, will Yuta join Rengoku in this battle against the Upper Moon 3? And more importantly, will Yuta be able to save Rengoku from his imminent death? Look, the battle begins exactly as we know it. Rengoku and the demon exchange blows at imperceptible speeds, but just as the demon prepares its fatal strike to pierce Rengoku, a gigantic and grotesque shadow materializes. Behind the Upper Moon, a shout echoes saying, "Don't move!" It was the voice of Yuta using the cursed speech copied from Numaki, which freezes the demon in the air. It's not a physical paralysis, it's a command imposed on the soul. The demon, who has sharp senses and his compass ability, detects a new fighting spirit, leaving him in a panic. He doesn't feel just one fighting spirit. Coming from Yuta, he senses a sinister amount of energy that makes Muzan's own aura seem like child's play. Rika holds Akaza's arms with overwhelming brute strength, even though Akaza is capable of destroying buildings with air punches and moving at hypersonic speed. Yuta can be physically compared to Yuji and Maki after awakening, when he reinforces his body with cursed energy. With Rika, who is a physical calamity capable of destroying cities, Akaza is physically overpowered. He tries to regenerate his arms crushed by Rika, but Yuta draws his katana. He doesn't have a Nichirin, but he wraps it in positive energy. In a fluid motion, Yuta cuts Akaza's torso. Where the blade touches, the Oni's flesh doesn't regenerate. Akaza, for the first time in centuries, feels the fear of real death. He tears off his own arms to escape Rika's grip and flee into the forest. But Yuta and Rengoku wouldn't let that happen. Both join forces to defeat Akaza. Rengoku, out of necessity, and Yuta, thinking he's fighting a powerful curse, end up teaming up. When Akaza is decapitated, the Oni disintegrates and Rengoku survives. Yes, the flame Hashira is alive, but Yuta's existence alters the balance. Muzan, through Akaza's cells, feels the pain of positive energy. He realizes that there is a human capable of simulating the sun. The order changes. The priority is no longer just the blue spider lily, but Yuta Okkotsu's head. When Yuta tries to understand his situation, just like Rengoku and the others, the best choice is to take Yuta to the Demon Slayer core. The Hashiras, initially hostile due to Rika's cursed aura, Kisaneme and Gyome perceive it as something demonic, are calmed down by Boyashiki. The master, with his intuition to foresee the future, sees in Yuta not a threat but the key. Boyashiki and Yuta exchange information, where Yuta explains about curses and the energy from his universe, something that allowed him to fight against Akaza. Shinobu Kochu is fascinated. If Yuta can generate positive energy, he can heal. Yes, Yuta uses his reverse technique on Boyashiki. Although he can't heal Yuta's curse, it's the entire family's genetics. He reverses the master's physical deterioration, allowing Boyashiki to walk and see again. This raises the company's morale to divine levels. Kaguya explains to Yuta about Muzan, the king of the Onis, who possesses the knowledge of every existing ONI, with some being able to bring him back. With that, Yuta joins the Oni Hunters Corporation. Tengen, seeing Yuta's power, requests his skills to save his wives. Soon we head to the entertainment district. Thanks to his Jujutsu sorcerer sense, Yuta manages to locate Daki, having a laughable fight against her. Rika manifests herself and with her brutality uses Daki's own ties to bind her. But the real problem is Gyutaro, who appears when he realizes his sister is having trouble. The poison of Upper Moon 6 is lethal. Zui is hit and Tanjiro is injured. Normally, it would be a race against time, but Yuta is there. Gyutaro strikes Yuta with his poison powers and laughs, thinking he has won, but Yuta doesn't even blink. He uses the reverse technique on himself, instantly neutralizing the poison, and touches Zui's back, completely healing the Hashira. Gyutaro's tactical advantage with his poison disappears, but Yuta does something more. His innate technique is copying. To copy, Rika needs to consume part of the target, so at the slightest opening, Rika devours an arm. It was severed by Tengen. From Gyutaro, Yuta now has temporary access to blood manipulation, something similar to Gyutaro's blood art. Yuta fires bursts of cutting blood, reinforced with cursed energy, at the siblings. Zui, in full form and without poison, together with Tanjiro, decapitate Daki, while Yuta and Rika pulverize Gyutaro. Thanks to Yuta, Zui sees a potential he hadn't seen before. Not retiring, he wants to stay active in the organization. Now look, the organization at this point has 2 more Hashiras than in the original timeline, Rengoku and Zui Tanjiro. He doesn't awaken the key mark because the fight was less desperate, which is a problem for the future, right? Muzan, furious about the death of another moon and the reports about the sorcerer, calls an emergency meeting. He decides that Rantengo and Gyoko should attack the Swordsmith village immediately, but with reinforcements, Kokushibo, Muzan is not going to take any chances. He knows that Yuta is an anomaly who is drastically changing the future of the hunters. Without Tanjiro damaging his sword in a direct fight against Gyutaro, there would be no reason for him to go to the Swordsmith village. Tanjiro's presence is essential for Muchuri Mitsuri's survival in the Swordsmith village. But don't worry, because as a way to reward Yuta for his help, Zui would send him to the Swordsmith village. After all, Yuta needs to recover. And there's nothing better than the best hot springs in Japan. When he meets Muchuri, Yuta realizes how comforting it is to have company. But the moment of peace is about to end because the village is invaded by Upper Moons 4 and 5. At this moment, Yuta senses the presence of the Upper Moons even before they start to act, preparing for battle alongside Muchuri. But the presence of Kokushibo changes everything. Yuta, who was heading alongside Muchuri to fight against Yoku, changes his direction to ensure that Kokushibo, the ONI with the most intimidating presence, doesn't claim any victims. So Muchuri has a direct confrontation with Gyoku alone. The Crow of the Love Hashira, upon realizing that Gyoku is an Upper Moon, requests the presence of Muchuru, and together the two of them manage to win. Yes, the Upper Moon. Although Gyoku is a very powerful Upper Moon 1 is a monster in a different league. The moon breathing wipes out a huge area of the village. Before his next attack, Yuta arrives on the battlefield, intercepting a slash from the moon breathing with his katana. Despite Kokushibo having 400 years of experience and the transparent world, Yuta has Rika and his copy techniques, something that could make him equal here. Kokushibo sees Yuta's muscle structure and notices something strange. The flow of energy doesn't follow veins or lungs. It's an aura that covers everything, like armor. Yuta fully summons Rika, and realizing Kokushibo's power, Yuta uses his cursed speech, shouting "Die" at the Oni Kokushibo. He freezes for 1 millisecond, receiving massive internal damage, coughing up blood from his ruptured throat. But his power is overwhelming, breaking the spell and regenerating instantly. Yuta realizes he can't defeat Kokushibo with just the sphere. He needs firepower. Rika opens her arsenal of stored weapons. Yuta grabs a cursed gauntlet, a special grade tool, and delivers a punch charged with the thin icebreaker copied from Uro. In Jujutsu Kaisen, the sky above Racha village, the impact distorts space, hitting Kokushibo even as he defends. However, Kokushibo activates his longsword, filled with chaotic blades. Yuta is slashed multiple times, surviving only by constantly using the automatic reverse technique. Just like Gojo and Hakari, he is burning a lot of cursed energy. The turning point happens when Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Nosuke arrive. That's right, Zenitsu and Nosuke annoyed Uzui to send them to the Swordsmith village as well. Since it would be good to rest soon, Tanjiro would accompany them. But because of the delay in the battle, even though the hunters joined forces to decapitate Rantengo and expose him to the sun, Nezuko was also exposed and managed to conquer the sun. Zan sees this through Rantengo's memories before he dies. The priority changes instantly. Kokushibo is ordered to retreat. He unleashes a storm of crescent moons that devastates the village, forcing Yuta to use Rika as a shield to save the blacksmiths, allowing Kokushibo to escape the training arc. The Hashira training begins, but unlike before, with Rengoku, Uzui, and Yuta active, the level rises drastically. Yuta works like a recovery cheat. The hunters can train to the brink of death, having their punches broken. Yuta heals them in seconds, and thanks to that, Tanjiro and the others unlock the hunter's mark much faster due to the intensity allowed by Yuta's healing. Yuta, however, trains something specific. He asks to analyze the Nichiren blades and notices that they absorb sunlight. He asks Haganezuka to forge a Nichiren katana that can withstand his massive cursed energy. Now Yuta has a weapon that channels both his energy and the weakness of the Onis. Muzan invades Ubuyashiki's mansion. The explosion happens, Tamayo injects the poison, and everyone falls into the Infinity Castle. Now big changes are about to happen. In Shinobu's fight against Duma, the Hashira is much stronger thanks to intense training, surviving until reinforcements Kanao and Inosuke arrive. When Duma tries to absorb Shinobu, Yuta appears, breaking through the ceiling. He uses his cursed speech, and Duma, caught by surprise, ends up getting drowsy. Kanao and Inosuke take the opportunity to attack, while Yuta takes advantage to copy the ONI's cryokinetic techniques. The battle is fierce, but since they can rival Duma, the hunters win. Shinobu survives, and the hunters go their separate ways to meet Muzan in the Infinity Castle. Yuta ends up running into Kokushibo, who is fighting against Gyomei, Sanemi, Muchiro, and Genya. This is a decisive battle, a rematch for Yuta. When Gyomei manages to injure the Oni, Rika takes the opportunity to eat the Oni's severed limb and copy its ability. Yuta can now use the Oni's blood arts, putting the Oni in trouble, but Kokushibo evolves into his grotesque form. Muchiro would have been cut in half here, but Yuta uses Uru's sky manipulation to deflect the fatal blow that would have killed the young Hashira. He activates his domain expansion, mutual and authentic love within the domain. The guaranteed hit effect of Yuta's copy technique is triggered and countless katanas appear. Yuta chooses the katana that contains the angel's Jacob's ladder technique. He floods the domain with purifying light. Kokushibo, trapped in the domain and attacked by Rika, is hit by Gyomei at the same time, and having his regeneration nullified by the light of the domain similar to the sun, Kokushibo is disintegrated. Muchiro and Genya survive, although gravely injured, but Yuta heals them soon after, when Obanai and Mitsuri, alongside the other Hashiras, finish off Nakimi and the castle falls. Still before dawn, Muzan appears in his final form, but this time he faces all the living Hashiras along with Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao, and Yuta. Even though he is resilient, Muzan is forced to retreat by shockwaves and decides to target Yuta in an attempt to gain immunity to positive energy. He tries to absorb Rika, and Yuta realizes that this would grant Muzan immunity, so Yuta connects his soul to hers with a kiss and fires a beam of pure love, converted into a curse reversal technique. The attack destroys almost all of Muzan's hearts and brains, preventing his regeneration. Tanjiro takes advantage and uses the 13th form of the Hinokami Kagura to finish destroying Muzan's other vital organs. While the Hashiras eliminate the remaining tentacles, Rengoku, and protect Yuta as the sun rises, unable to reach the shadow, Muzan is reduced to ashes in seconds. The war ends with an overwhelming victory for humanity. The presence of Yuta Okkotsu, with his healing ability and Rika's versatility, filled the defensive gaps that caused so many deaths in the original timeline. In the end, Nezuko is cured by Tamayo, the organization is dissolved, and Yuta returns thanks to Itadori and his friends who defeated the special Great Curse. So, did you enjoy this video where a Jujutsu sorcerer saves the day? I picked out this other video for you to watch, I'm sure you'll like it. I'll see you there, otaku.